Hi, Thomas. Good evening. How are you?
Hi, Dharam. I'm very fine. How are you?
I'm doing great. Good to see you again.
Yeah, good to see you.
How's Germany doing?
Germany is waiting for you to speak to them because you are doing a presentation to the chapter in Germany next week. And I
Exactly.
invite everybody to listen to you and even to look at the YouTube video we would put on our website later on.
Thank you. You have been kind so far in terms of contributing to the knowledge pool. We have gone through so many recordings, and Thomas, your contribution is always appreciated. And yeah, welcome back.
Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
we are both doing a lot of public speaking and a lot of public exposure. So we are building our, let's say, reputation and rebuilding our image to the world. So let me just share that I will be speaking beginning of March in Stockholm in Sweden, the annual conference of the Sweden chapter, and I'm a speaker there. So that's a benefit if you have been around and you are well known, then you get invited. And yeah, and Stockholm is a nice city. Have you been there?
No, I'm Stockholm.
Maybe you should go there.
Yeah, next time. They always excite. So, Thomas, we start talking about this topic last time, and we had a lot of good discussion. The topic we have started to discuss about the state of project management in today's world.
Mhm.
So we have gone through a number of questions, and if you want to recap what we have talked, and then we can go to the questions we have this time.
We started with the question discussing about what has changed in the last 5 to 10 years, and we identified something. There are a lot, besides the hypes we see, the hypes of agile, sustainability, and AI and mega projects. These are things that popped up, and if there's some substance behind it, it is yet to be seen. With agile, they are more mature, I think, and in mega projects, they are still struggling with concluding the six-whole mega projects. But what also has been posed by PMI now is that the core purpose of project is to create value. And maybe you have seen it before, but now it's official, and the PMBOK Guide 8 includes this sentence and this definition of a project, that the purpose is to create value. And so we discussed about this agile, hybrid, and so on, and also product-centric models you asked for. And like always, we have our audience, our project managers, and they are wondering what kind of skills or capabilities do they need to
Yeah.
cope with that upcoming changes or even existing changes. And we talked about this. And so I think there are two skill areas which are important but are becoming more important. The one is emotional intelligence, and I don't extend on that here, but the other is also the adaptive intelligence, and so that you are able to sense changes and to respond to changes, experiment, find out new things. So there's a little bit entrepreneurism moving into project management, and project managers per se have a mental block to be entrepreneurs, because entrepreneurs means that you take risks and you are
Yeah.
prepared to fail. And no project manager likes to fail. And that's a big problem in the mindset. But okay, we will deal with that. It also gives a question mark to the notion that project managers are the born CEOs of companies, because CEOs of companies, they have to be entrepreneurs and they have to be risk taking, and they have to be prepared to invest in something that does not bring in the return. And as a project manager, you are expected to bring the expected return and the expected promise that was given in the end on benefits, on deliverables, on timelines, on budgets, or whatever. You promise a lot, and it's sometimes hard to balance all these promises and to give them, but it's not that you are allowed to spend a lot of money on experiments.
And thank you, Thomas, for a great summary of what we talked about. And the people who are watching this as it's a second part of the previous discussion we already had. So maybe it's a good idea to go back to the first recording first and then come back to this one. Thomas, my first question to you for today. How has technology, including AI, automation, data analytics, changed the role and expectation of project managers in today's world?
When I was running projects, and even the bigger the project went, the less tools we use. So Excel and PowerPoint, they are the dominant tools for the past 30 years since they were created in the beginning of the 90s. And now we have lots of more automation tools and tools that are being called being intelligent, so that we have to trust these tools. Even in Excel, you have this kind of formulas, and over time you trust them, but you also have reconciliations that you test the results before you publish them. And we always have data breaches in Excel. And now this multiplies in other tools. And I was implementing SAP with this ERP program, which basically is an automation of business processes. Yeah. And a standardization. And it's exactly the same thing. Find a bug in SAP. There are many. And maybe as a project manager, you are not able to do that. We have to trust, or you have to have people who understand it and give you a hint of what to do. Are we doing data-informed decisions more and more? Maybe that's one of the things that technology drives. So we have vast data, and I read a report from, I think, Ernst & Young, stating one of the most difficult questions AI faces with all the data is there, that the data actually in organizations is siloed. HR has its data, and finance has its data, and production and sales and whatever. And even the same attributes have had different meanings in the different contexts of the divisions. When this was identified on the organizational level, it's the same in the project management field. You might have siloed data from the different projects, but also from the different areas in these projects. So what about the data, how much money you spend on with the people, the resources you have, and they spend hours, and what is chargeable and what is reducing your budget and what is maybe free for some reasons. And it has been around a long time, but it gets more complicated with more automation, but you also can have quicker results in calculations and maybe have to say, okay, we take the results of this data analysis. But what's clearly expected from project managers, and that's what you have to adapt to, is it's required that you are producing proactive actions. You are not only reacting on something goes wrong, and you have a bug and you repair it, but you have to find out that you have a proactive and a maybe predictive manner, and data could give you that. Give you an example. It's 30 years old. It was UPS, and UPS had all these trucks going around, and sometimes the truck breaks down. You have to repair the truck or getting from the street somewhere, but also the delivery of these parcels is delayed and a lot of things. So they found that it would be very good if they would know when a truck breaks down. And so they had some sensors in the trucks anyhow, and they found out that they could look at the data and predict when a truck will break down next week or so. So this is, and then they brought them in, and then they had a predictive maintenance, and they sent them out, and they really reduced the failures of trucks in a predictive and a proactive manner. And they saved a lot of money because of the impact of breaking down by a truck. It was reduced immensely. And this is going since some years, and maybe also in projects. If you can go into a proactive manner, then you can predict problems that go up. The risk management would be a good topic here to look at. I'll have a question mark to what some people think intelligence, AI, and all this. How much can AI help us in making conclusions and having a cause-effect relationship of things? This happens and then that happens. Is it really true? I think we are far away from that, maybe 10 years away from that. But with all this interpretation and prediction and trust building, expected towards the PM are that you can judge. from the data you have, but also from the status you have, that you can judge ethically. Is it appropriate to do and so? You have to be knowledgeable about the ethics of our profession and the ethics of the customer and the context the project is running, which is different if you are in the pharmaceutical industry, in the atomic energy industry, or in the airflight industry. There are very high requirements in ethics and in honesty and not taking a shortcut because we don't want that the plane goes down because you made a wrong judgment here.
Yep.
What we also have at the PM should be up to date with his knowledge and experience. So continuous learning becomes, as from other discussions, very important for project managers.
So all this technology, we are in the technology era now with artificial intelligence, machine learning, automation, agile, and many other things. As a project manager, I believe we should be aware of our tools and how can we improve our project management to get the best value, better value for our client or our company or organization. So awareness is important. Yeah.
The awareness and also that you are capable of utilizing all these tools. And that's a learning. And learning involves experimenting.
Yeah.
And you have this tool, and this will happen more and more, that the tool vendors come to you and they will show you what the tool can do and how to use it, and then you try it out in your projects.
Yeah. And we have to, while we're trying out all these systems and new tools, we have to be careful about the privacy and the sensitivity of the data. You can't just put anything on ChatGPT and ask, hey, can you help me to create this confidential document which I have to send to the company are responding for RFP?
This was the case before ChatGPT, that you sent in a proposal and with all the good ideas you had, and then they somehow leaked it. But that's also an ethical question then. And you're certainly destroying your reputation, trustworthiness with this kind of behavior.
Yeah. As you correctly said, like with the new technology, new systems are coming up, which can, as a project manager, you can automate a lot of admin work, which many people have to work last minute reporting, Friday morning reporting happening. And if that can be automated, great one. And the risk by looking at the pattern that you correctly, I like the idea of UPS to have predictability based on the pattern. Of course, what is the AI doing? Looking at the pattern. If you can get the pattern, okay, after every 3 or 4 trips of this duration, the chance of getting the truck breakdown is very high because of the extreme heat, extreme cold. So better to put this truck into the workshop for at least to check, which obviously is a preventive maintenance, which is, use the technology available, automation, AI, but use it very carefully and use it for the benefit of the organization.
Yeah, and some people try to copy that predictive maintenance. So my washing machine has a predictive maintenance. So she will call the factory if something is there. She never called the factory for some reason. Maybe she's too good. But not everything that's possible is really effective.
No, but your machine may be highly intelligent. It can fix medicines.
Maybe she was saying, I want to see somebody else, send me a repairman.
All right. That can be dangerous when the machine having problem calling mechanic and somebody knock your door. No problem.
Talk about transparency. So if any of your machines calls anybody, you should be aware of.
Oh, yeah. That's actually maybe leaking data.
Yeah.
My next question to you, what are the biggest challenges project manager face right now in terms of stakeholder expectations, workload, and decision-making pressure?
It's my judgment, how I see it. And regarding stakeholders, it's very clear that we get more and more diverse stakeholders, and maybe stakeholders just for a part of the project. At the beginning, you might have the people who have a requirement to do that, and to do that project. In the end, you have the users who will use your system, good or not. So you have a lot of more competing stakeholder expectations. Maybe not in IT and software development so much as in construction. No, I just read a report, if you see this big construction project like building a railway, UK from here to there, from London to Manchester, you know what? They have 4,000 organizations working on that project. 4,000. And each of them has a stakeholder expectation. And you cannot possibly fathom what is going on there. You have to use other ways of influencing them and to keep them happy than to look at each individually and say, okay, you have an expected profit margin of 3%, now you are at 2.5%. I give you another 0.5%. That's not possible. You have to have, and the means to do that is first, philosophically, is you have to move from command and control mode into a mode that system thinking is involved. You think of the whole program or project or construction system as a big system with a lot of components and 4,000 external companies. And these are only the organizations working there. And you don't talk about the stakeholders that are affected by the project because they have to move from their house to elsewhere or forests or waters or whatever. A lot of people are affected, even if they are not really looking at profits or so. And then you have to imagine all these stakeholders, thousands of stakeholders, they have expectations in each particular moment. And this moment, maybe 2 weeks later, we have other expectations because their environment changed. They lost key resources. So the expectation is that they can delay their part of the project. And what happens to the other stakeholders? They would say, okay, can we trust them? And they do that because of the world we're living in. Everything is changing, getting more connected. We're getting bigger. And the interdependencies are getting more complex. And this going down even to the small projects. So if you really want to have a simple project, maybe you have to go down to maximum 6 months. It's not more than 5 people and 1 stakeholder. But really interesting things, it's much more. And I worked with IBM and I had some, let's say, some outsourcing projects. And even then, you have a list of 300 stakeholders. Yeah, and you cannot possibly having all of them in your mind all the time and see what's happening. So this is the first thing you ask for, stakeholder expectations. Workload means how much of the work you are doing every day is waiting time for something, for a supply chain thing that you're waiting for delivery, for a decision that has to be made. So I think decision speed, as a project manager, we are making decisions and we cannot delay these decisions. We have to make them much faster because stakeholders and success efficiency is not waiting for us. They need us to do that. Otherwise, they will make maybe their own decisions and they get out of control, or we increase the delay of decisions and increase the workload because people do something and they to come back after you made the decisions on your stuff. And anyhow, there's waiting time and so on, and which is not productive for the project and often cannot be used for something else meaningful. What we still will have, it's that we have limited authority. And authority rests with the owner of the organization, maybe the stakeholders, the shareholders, there's the board, and CEOs, the hierarchy. But a project doesn't really, it's a temporary organization, and it doesn't really fit into establishing a formal authority. And with more projects, we will have more people without a formal authority. And they depend on the people to make decisions with authority. A project charter becomes more important because a project charter can give you, establish you as an agent of the organization with a defined set of authorities you have. Are you allowed to hire people? Are you allowed to decide on deadlines or whatever? This has to be somehow defined. At IBM, where I worked for 30, 40 years, it was defined in project management policies. What is the authority of a project manager? When has he to ask some governance boards and so on? So that's what is a big challenge today, but also will become a more important challenge. And then the last thing I want to mention is the emotional strain you may get into. Because you have to make more decisions, more demands coming, and workload goes up, and have different stakeholders that expect something from you. There are more stress factors that are affecting on you.
Exactly. There are lots of challenges. And again, we have been talking about changing technology and the new tools coming, and the stakeholder expectation is also changing. And the problem is, that's not a problem, but the stakeholders are more educated than before because of the AI ways or ChatGPT. They can also come prepared, but before you come and talk to the project manager, they already know, and they probably have more information than you. Like this, yeah, this problem can be like school teacher that they are teaching, but the students already know more than what teacher is going to teach. That's where the challenge comes in. The stakeholders are more knowledgeable and more aware than past. And of course, it's going to be like this all the time. But using some tools like having stakeholder register, stakeholder analysis, and stakeholder engagement plan can help you to tackle some of the challenges. To know even the so many stakeholders doesn't mean every stakeholder is always proactively looking at ChatGPT and those things. Some may be, some may not be. This person is actually more smarter than others. So you probably have to pay attention to that stakeholder accordingly.
And what a skill you have to develop is, as a project manager, is influencing skills, how to influence stakeholders, because they are humans.
Yeah.
And they have expectations. And previously we called it expectation management. And influencing their expectations, and the higher expectations you cannot fulfill, they should go away, and maybe other expectations should come in which you are targeting to. So that's one of the points that if you know how to influence people. And we as humans, we are designed to influence others. Look at, if you are a father or a mother, you hopefully influence your kids. We influence our pets, our dogs, if we can. Not our cats, because cats cannot be influenced. But a dog can be influenced, and there are tools and techniques to do that. I'm sure also cats can be influenced, but it's not a popular thing, and maybe too difficult. But first, start with your dog.
But when coming back to this topic where we say because we have AI-based systems, PMI systems are more smarter for us. So that can also give some predictability and also some automating some of the work. And that means you have more time to work with your stakeholders. There's some work is already happening in parallel, which previously you have to worry about writing the email or writing the reports and everything. But now you free up some time, you can spend that time to build relationship with your stakeholders. That can be useful. While they are getting smarter, you can also be smarter.
Yeah. Think about this week, the Olympic Games in Italy will start. And now think about that. How many stakeholders in these Olympic are there? And then have to be, satisfied, influenced, whatever. People are coming here spending money for tickets, but athletes coming in, they want a gold medal. There's a lot of things going on. Spectators are coming and filling the watching. So, Steve, imagine you are the project manager for the Olympic Games in Italy.
So having right tools, right system can help you to work with these challenges, triple expectation management, workload management, because if you see what has worked and which one is higher priority, you can focus on that work more than the other work comparatively, because you have decision making. It's not something you make the decision, you recommend the decisions, not requesting their stakeholder, senior stakeholder, hey, this is the better way to do, and what do you think? Decisions are not made by project manager. You may provide information, recommendation, but decisions are made by senior stakeholder. All right. Okay, moving to my next question. Looking ahead, what advice would you give to the current and aspiring project managers to thrive in the next decade of the project management? From a PMO or leadership perspective, how should organizations rethink governance and success metrics in today's fast-changing environment?
Give you another example. I was on the PMI board, and the board has the fiduciary responsibility to make the organization successful, to run it in a good way. And what I learned coming on the board as a project manager, I have to let loose this mindset of I'm trying to control what the organization is doing. That's impossible. You have 800 employees and you have 300,000 members and you have 300 chapters and all this stuff, a lot of things. So what you move is from a mindset of control, plan and control, to a mindset of oversight. You are there and you're overseeing the whole thing. You're trying to have a 10,000 feet view of the organization, what's going on. And you are depending on, again, data and maybe AI who gives you some predictive things, some trends. And so when I was on the board first time in 2006, we established a strategic model, which is the scenario planning. It was a huge process. So when I came back in 2017, it was still there, was these trend reports. What are the project management trends? What can we read out of that? And this is very important and also very interesting, not only for the PMI board, but also for management and also for members from time to time. It was even published and making available to the outer world. So this is the kind of information you need, or maybe I can make it more comprehensive, more feasible and more relevant to the decisions that have to be made. And maybe decisions are being proposed. So with 4,000 contractors working on that thing, you cannot control every single contractor. You have to have the oversight that the whole system is somehow working. You identify fractions and eliminate problems, yes. But in the end, you have to trust the system which you established and created and you are governing. So governance is more going into oversight. And that is also the case for project managers, I think. And this will be a major mindset shift. Yeah. In the old times, or even currently, many PMOs are administrative supporters, doing all the reporting and gathering data from the project and this kind of stuff, doing training. But if PMOs, as is expected, are moving into a more strategic role, so selecting the right projects to do and making sure the strategic portfolio is balanced, then PMOs also have to establish a kind of view on the project landscape, which is more relevant to oversight, overseeing all the stuff, without having direct, deep control of every project. Maybe let's lose this kind of thing.
So you talked about a particular project, the construction project, 4,000 stakeholders and governance, of course. Look, when we have so many stakeholders, we need to have right governance from top down. You cannot interact with every stakeholder at your level. You are senior director, senior manager, or project manager. And you need to break it down into, okay, these are my senior team leaders or senior project managers, and they have further what you can provide, guidance. Hey, everybody, this is what I'm expecting as a project director. This is the guidance you provide them because their stakeholders are your stakeholders. Only thing you're not directly engaging with them. They are the one engaging with them, but they follow your guidelines. And that's where, this larger size project, you need to have a pyramid structure where you can, top down and the information flow from top to bottom and bottom to up. Otherwise, impossible to, you cannot even control 10 people. Or how can you control 4,000 people?
And the PMOs and the leaders, they become more and more the designers of governance.
Yeah.
How do you design your structure and your authorities and the reporting lines and everything so that you can really be trustful in the system that you designed? But it doesn't mean that you really run the system in every detail and to the last level and even refrain from that. You have to hire good people who are on for these positions, and maybe there's even a career path from bottom to top. But I would say the designers of governance is also a typical program management task as compared. If you look at the PMBOK guide, there's not much, I think, even in the new one about design of governance. It's maybe simple. You have a steering committee and project manager and a sponsor, all this stuff, but that you can do much more with that org chart of your project. It's really something you also have to experience. Yeah. So the question is, where do you put the individual teams, and where are the contractors reporting to? Are they reporting to finance or risk or in the product or whatever? And that's the design you make from the beginning, which determines how these people are involved and how these people work and how much information you get. And are they somehow, these are components of your project system. And how is the influence to other components? That's, again, systems thinking. That you try to break down all the stuff, but in the end, how it comes together and has more requirements. Consider we are tending to break down things, and then we are improving the elements, and then we expect that the whole thing is working better. But that is not the case. The whole thing is more than the sum of its parts. And the benefits you get from a program are not coming from the individual projects and components. They are coming from the interaction of them. Otherwise, you wouldn't need a program. You could do it with a portfolio.
One thing I like to highlight, while PMP or PMBOK is not talking too much about governance, but Standard for Program Management, 5th edition, has a lot of information about how to structure a governance. And governance can be based on how much experience you have as a program manager and how important the program is, strategically important, how much risk involved, who is funding. That's also whether funding coming from outside of the organization or internally or whatever. So there are many ways there to consider before a governance can be formulated. And that has to be working for you. Governance has to be like based on the need of the program or project. Not too complex, not too less.
In a project, you could keep it quite simple and even use a standard org chart, which you all know. But in a program, we have these performance domains, and one of them is governance framework. So you are in charge of defining it, as a program manager, not as a project manager.
All right. So looking ahead, next question is, looking ahead, what advice would you give to the current and aspiring project managers to thrive in the next decade of the project management? It's a very interesting question.
Well, like in any of our discussions, the first thing is project management is here to stay.
Yeah.
Using humans to deal with humans. And even when I decided to become a project manager and pursue the project management career in 1988, part of project management is people business. I understood that at this time. And it was the base of my decision to go into project management. And here we are. We are still humans. And we have still humans in projects and are doing projects for humans. And that's the case. It's here to stay. The project manager will change a little bit, and it depends on the industry. It depends maybe on the organization. The project manager will become a kind of leader for developing value. I have my doubts about that, but okay, that's a push from PMI right now and some scholars, but there's a lot of debate about that. But if it's a people business, human and leadership skills are really mandatory to develop. We talked about emotional intelligence at the beginning of our chat, and adaptive intelligence is all intelligence of a person, how to adapt. And we talked about influencing skills. And these are all skills where normally project managers don't focus on, but maybe they should. It's about a project is moving into a system of components with interactions, and the value of the system will depend on how you manage these interactions and how you manage all these components. And the behavior of the whole system is often different from what is expected from knowing the individual components. But so system thinking is something I would recommend you also look into it and learn what it is and understand the difference between, let's say, reductionist thinking, which is basis for project management, command and control, and the system thinking, which is more, we talk about oversight, and it's the same questions that came up here. Where should I move? What should I build up? Depends on the individual status where you are and what you have already. But it's always good to have a very diverse set of skills and views, and so that you can better adapt, be more resilient, and better grow.
Look, from my point of view, this is an interesting time, and things are changing very fast. We are more and more getting into AI-based projects. It's not just replacing AI, human by AI, but utilizing AI into the system. And that will become very, very much part of our life as a project manager. So certification around AI, of course, they will definitely help you. And still stay, I don't think PMP and PGM, PPFMP going away. They are still relevant, and they are actually become more relevant in the coming days because they give you structured method and having knowledge of project management, agile project management, and AI-based project management and green project management. Look at different perspective and stay educated, continuous learning, and using new tools, try new tools. Some tools can be better than others, not just traditional Microsoft project or something. There are better tools available now, which can have a more predictability and more better, make your life easier, better administration or other things. So explore. So keep learning and keep watching our videos. That's important. So,
all of them.
And hopefully very soon you will see our book as well, so where you can see lots of discussion we had and we converted into some meaningful knowledge. And I hope you will find that useful. So just keep an eye on the announcement. So very soon we will be talking about it. So, thank you, Thomas. And another interesting topic to talk about, and always your perspective and your interesting viewpoint. Thank you for your contribution. And I can't wait for the next topic.
Yeah, thank you, Darren, for organizing it. Thank you for listening, and hope you had something out of it. And if you have questions or you feel the need to explore something better, you can visit my LinkedIn page where I have some documents and some articles about the topic, but you can also contact me.
Thank you, Thomas. And thank you guys for watching and your constructive comments as well. Keep putting the comments on the LinkedIn or YouTube.
Okay.
All right. Bye-bye.